TESOL Pop, Season 10, Episode 1. What can online learning platforms do today? And how can we leverage them to create engaging, personalised learning paths for our students? These are big questions that my guest, founder of Happy Students, Roger Hubmann, discusses in this episode. Let's join the conversation where I asked Roger what trends is he seeing in how online learning platforms are being used today.
You know, in the past, learning platforms were mainly designed to shuffle around PDFs, and this role certainly has changed because today learning platforms, they form like a pre and after the classroom session. They're mainly determined to help students to better prepare for the classroom sessions, and then especially after classroom sessions to help them individually dive deeper into certain subjects. So they create that digital frame around the teacher today.
What you just described prior, the PDF library kind of moving around, that is my experience I had as a student with learning platforms. And what you're describing now seems a lot more integrated with the students' experience.
Absolutely it is, because we live in a different world today. You know, everything is very digitalized. And I see learning platforms also as a way how to create more engagement outside of the 2 hours where there is this classroom session. Because modern learning, progressive learning platforms are also means of communication, collaboration. So it's absolutely fine for teachers to talk to students before they come into the classroom, to give them some extra information that is not so static. Because in the end, may sound like marketing, but you also want to engage your students, and good professors do. And these are a learning platform is just a digital frame that enables you to do that.
So with our listeners who are tuning in today, they'll probably be thinking, oh, well, how could this work for a language learner and a language teacher? Could you share an insight to what this would look like in practice for that context?
Absolutely. We do have an interesting client, and this client, it's called Medicus Linguae, and they're teaching German to nursing staff in German-speaking Europe, which comes from other countries. And of course, they do need to learn the terminology in that profession and all that. But the nice thing is we use that learning platform because they're dispersed, they're away from each other for many hundred kilometers. So we use the learning platform and online teaching to get them together. But what's really nice is we're using a smartphone-compatible learning platform. So then suddenly you have students with access to microphones, to videos, and so on. And this inspired us a lot when we developed that course, because in that course, people are logging in and they do the preparation before the online session. They have a lot of exercises in there where they're asked to present themselves via video, when the audio recordings that then are sent to the class, then they talk about. So it's a nice way, I believe, especially as it works on smartphones, to interact even more, because, well, it's about language and that works best on phones.
Yeah, and exactly for that key part, which is usually speaking and listening. That's usually what a lot of my students, when I was teaching languages, would used to say, oh, I need more practice with my speaking and listening. If they have access to a mobile device where they can upload some segments of their speaking, be able to listen back to it, get feedback from their teacher, not having to do that always in the class face-to-face time, can really help to widen and increase, I should say, the amount of practice time that students really seek to improve their speaking confidence and skill.
Absolutely, you're totally right here. And it is nothing else than professional. It is just when you do train presentations, you're taught at university to record yourself. And another thing is, it comes quite natural to these people because they're using the smartphones to communicate with their people at home. They're used to social media. So I think it's a very good combination.
So in today's episode, I wanted to share a few challenges, or should I say misconceptions, that I often hear associated with online learning. And it perhaps goes back to previous experiences that teachers may have had as students themselves with what learning platforms used to be compared to where they are now. So I thought it would be fun to share some of these misconceptions or challenges with you to debunk. Are you ready for the first one, Roger?
Absolutely ready to take charge.
Okay. All right. So here's the first, challenge one. Online courses take a huge amount of time to build. I don't have time to create one as a teacher.
Well, it was true until very recently. You were right. But let me dive in on that first. Basically, yes, it takes more time because there's more, you need to invest time in these contents previously. And it is even more time consuming when teachers drop an analog version of their course and then they move it to online. But it's true, the preparatory work is more than like in a classical teaching setting. Well, that's very good news. And we're in the age of generative AI, and there are artificial intelligences popping up that help us to create these learning contents. And they are a huge time saver already, and they will continue to be a huge time saver. Then on a third point, I think teachers should share more because really good digital learning contents are usually homegrown or self-made. And these should be shared more. But it seems that teachers rather keep that to themselves instead of sharing that. And probably they could deal like, you do that for me and I do that for you, because there's some great things around. And if they would be shared, more people could profit. Because I have to say that publishing houses are hesitant to offer engaging digital learning journeys. And that is a reason for that, because they're protecting their paper-based business. That's why I enforce people to share their good learning contents, and they become ever easier to produce.
Number two, it's difficult to individualize learning when it comes to online platforms.
Well, I have a question for you. We've talked about two ways of learning in the digital world. We had the PDF shuffle station, and then we had this nursing language model. And the nursing language model consists of very little learning items that are tied together. When you work with little learning items that are tied together and that can be untied, individualization becomes quite easy, because then you tell the platform, this pupil needs some more vocabulary work, and that other pupil needs to work on his pronunciation. And then magically the platform goes and plays out more vocabulary quizzes to pupil A, and then more of these pronunciation assignments with his smartphone for pupil B. So I would say the organization of the learning items in in little modules and a strong technology learning platform is key to that individualization.
That's lovely. So it can literally be like little bundles, learning bundles that you plug together for particular students.
Exactly. Yeah. Little things that are individually plugged together.
Well, that's completely debunked that first challenge, isn't it? In fact, that's really difficult sometimes to do in a live classroom setting. When you have 30 students in front of you and you're having to juggle all the different tasks and all the different paper to give to them. Actually, I would argue it could be far easier to do this in an online space than it is in the physical classroom, from my own experience.
The best examples of applications of digital learning techniques and platforms we see in countries or areas where the schooling system is cash-strapped. And they do exactly what you just said. They organize their digital learning items in a way that that part of the class can work on themselves. They go through a list of learning items, and then teachers can give attention to other groups, to other parts of that class, because they freed up time by the help of the learning platform. And that's a dialectical model that comes with digital learning platforms.
Yeah, there's so much return on investment in terms of time and that learning that creates as a result to give that differentiated, specialized instruction for those students. I think that's brilliant. We've got one more challenge to take on. Are you ready for the final challenge?
Absolutely.
Okay, so for number 3, I often hear that digitalization means less human interaction. And it's removing the teacher and that student relationship, weakening it in some way.
I think it is important here to first look at the different types of digitalized learning. There is the complete digital self-learning. This is the app that someone might download on the App Store to learn a language. Yes, of course, there's no more human interaction. It hasn't ever been. And there's the classical classroom teaching of a language where people come to some place at a certain time. But there's the blended learning in between, or the flipped classroom that we just talked about. And this is what I mean by creating a digital frame around your teaching. Because if you do that digital frame in a clever way, it will first enable individualization and therefore more effectiveness of the learning journey. And especially, it will take the class to the same level, more or less, in their knowledge, which then frees up time. We all know, I'm a teacher myself, and we have a huge interest that people do the rather simple things on their own outside of the classroom, because then we know it frees time up for us in the classroom to do the really interesting things that cannot be delivered by a computer, by the way. So I'm not in line with this. Well done. It actually increases the time and opportunity for human interaction.
The focus being on quality interaction time, that when you are in that face-to-face environment, that the online learning platform therefore enables.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's like, I like to compare it to the time when Xerox copying machines came up. Nobody today is interested to type the same form again and again. And people then found ways how to invest the time that they saved in much better ways. The same happens with teaching.
Exactly, looking for that efficiency. Roger, you've done really well in tackling all those challenges, and I did give you lots of different ones. To wrap up today's episode, could you share what's something that's impressed you recently? Because you're very much part of the ed tech sphere. You're watching new technologies as they come in. I wonder what's something you've seen recently that you think, now that's an exciting thing to watch.
What impressed me a lot was the demonstration of the new ChatGPT Omnia version. And there are different videos around on their website. And one of the videos was a lady from Asia, and she asked the chat agent to teach Chinese words to her colleague. And then the colleague would talk into his smartphone to the ChatGPT, and then that thing would correct him the way how he pronounces. And I think this is just beautiful, making back to the point what he said before. I mean, then people can, in total isolation, whenever they're comfortable, they can really work on their pronunciation, which is such a painful thing in front of a class.
Yeah, like you say, it enables them to kind of have that additional support and then be able to, continue working on it in the face-to-face classroom. I agree with you that latest demos, I know the one you're referring to, and I can put links in the show notes. So listeners who are thinking, I want to see this, you can watch too. It really is quite impressive how quickly ChatGPT and OpenAI is advancing.
Absolutely. And it's about sharing again, because a part of sharing, especially amongst teachers, is also to inspire each other how to use these tools in a creative and efficient way, I believe.
Roger, it's been lovely talking to you today. Thank you so much for your time and talking about online learning platforms and dispelling some of these common misconceptions. So listeners can find out more about your work. Where can they contact you?
Well, there's a link to my website, and at happystudents.eu. You can book an online meeting there and have a quick coffee with me. Also, please do get in touch on LinkedIn, and I'd love to hear from you. So if anything I can add, please feel free to get in touch through these channels.
That's lovely. And as always, those links are in the show notes so you can find them easily. If you've got a question or an idea that you'd like to pitch to the podcast, then you can go to the website tsopop.com. Finally, you can support the work we do here at tsopop by sharing the episode with your teaching community, by leaving a rating review wherever you listen to the podcast, or by even buying us a coffee by going to ko-fi.com/tsopop.